Thank you for joining me as we sew a Diamond Crossbody from Sewflo Sewing Patterns. This bag truly is a gem. It's the perfect size for on the go. Its features include hidden D-ring connectors and a recessed zipper pocket for the exterior, while the interior has a zipper pocket and a divided slip pocket. Let's go over what you'll need. For the exterior, we're going to need the exterior gusset. With the gusset, you're going to need 2 D-ring connectors. I will be using a webbing for it, so I'm using 1-inch webbing. You need 2 of those. You need your 2 D-ring connectors, and you're going to need 2 rivets. For the main body, you're going to need 2 of the side panels in one direction and 2 mirrored. You're going to need 2 of the corner pieces in one direction and 2 mirrored. You're going to need 2 of the exterior centers, and then you're going to need 2 of the exterior accents. Inside, when you look in, you're going to have your 2 zipper panels. You'll need your zipper tape, a zipper pull, and a zipper end. She gives you the instructions and pattern pieces to use either a vinyl tab or a cotton woven tab. Then you also are going to need the lining tops. The lining tops do need to be made out of your exterior fabric. And then I'm going to be using webbing for my strap. For your interior, you will need 2 of your main linings. You'll need 2 of the slip pocket. You'll need 1 lining for your gusset. You'll need 2 zipper pockets. You'll need your zipper tape and zipper pull, and then your 2 zipper panel lining pieces. If you choose to add a tag, you can also do that. The first thing you need to do is you need to make your straps. This is the crossbody version with the adjuster in it. If you are doing the handbag version, then you need to prepare your pieces for the handles. Now we're going to skip ahead to the bag making. You're going to take out your exterior centers. From the top edge, that's the diamond portion on the top, you're going to measure down and draw a line from both top angles. And repeat for the other one. Now you're going to take out your double-sided tape and you're going to place some along the top edges. Then you will take this, backing off of this side, and match it up to your line. If your fabric allows, then it's a good idea to press these with an iron. And there will be a small portion of overlap, which I'm going to add another little piece of double-sided tape to. And then you're going to take your center pieces and you're going to align it, hold it in place with clips, or you can use some double-sided tape. In fact, I may put some up here just to hold it in place. And then you can take it to the machine and you're going to sew around the entire perimeter. Okay, let's go ahead and put some double-sided tape just to keep it in place. And you can put it down a little lower so that it's not going to be in your seam allowance. Let's put it on this one too. Okay, now we're going to take them to the machine and we're going to sew around the entire perimeter of the center accent. Don't forget that this is a top stitch length. Now that you've sewn these two center portions into place, we're going to set one aside. We're going to grab our left side panel. That's the one that would be lined up just like this. You're going to place it right sides together and align it even with the bottom edge and the side edge here. And then you're going to clip them together. I like to put a clip up here that reaches down here and holds it for when I remove the last clip, and another one on this side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other one and we're going to do this all over again. Okay, now we're going to take these both to the machine and we're going to sew them on this side here. Pay careful attention to the seam allowance listed in the tutorial. Now you're going to fold it over. You want to hold it as best you can. Just finger press it. And then you're going to take it to the machine and you're going to top stitch right along there with the seam behind this piece. So let's take it to the machine. Just take your time. Don't worry about how quickly you're sewing through this. Just take your time so that your top stitches look really nice and neat. Now we're going to take the right panel over here and we're going to do the same exact thing we just did. And let's take it to the machine. All right, we've gotten both of the side panels on to both the front and back. Now we're going to work on our corner panels. So what we need to do is look at where you put your little dot when you were preparing them, and that's going to go toward the top. So let's get this one out of the way for a moment. And then we're going to clip it in place, just like we did the side panels. All right, and we're going to do that to both sides. Again, where your dot is. And let's do the other one. Okay, let's take those to the machine. right, now that we are flipping them over, remember this is a top stitch. So set your stitch to top stitch length and let's get started again. Okay, we have completed the front and back panels, so we're now going to set these aside. We're going to take out our gusset piece here and make sure that you have transferred the marking for the D-ring connector opening to both sides. We need a razor knife because we're going to cut the top and both sides. Leave the bottom attached. Do not cut the whole thing out. Just cut the side, top, and other side. Now you can see I didn't go all the way through, so I need to continue working over here. Now, it's not the prettiest thing, but it will turn out just like it's supposed to. And let's do the other side. All right, and we've cut this side out too. Now we're going to take one of our D-ring connectors with this right side up, and we're going to slide it in. Okay. About halfway. You're going to take it to the machine, make sure it's straight, take it to the machine, and you're going to sew right above the end of this, and you should be sewing onto the back of this. So let's do the other side too. All right, and we will take this to the machine and sew right above that. Make sure you keep it straight and make sure you do not sew outside of the webbing or D-ring connector. Now that these are sewn into place, you're going to add a D-ring with the flat side right this way, and you're going to turn it over, and right underneath here, you can't see it yet, there we go, going to thread this D-ring connector into the hole. This is what it'll look like on top, and this is what it'll look like on bottom. Let's go ahead and clip it at the end. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it to the machine and you're going to sew right across here, making sure that you catch both layers of the D-ring connector in it. And if you need to, you can sew another line, just depends on whether you caught it and how well that went. And we're going to do the other side also, so we can only go to the machine one time. So okay, nice and neat. And again, just sew across this little tab here. You can go off onto the webbing, that's fine, or your D-ring connector. And let's take it to the machine and do both of them. Now, as you can see, I did catch it, but if you're worried, you can always go back over it again. With the tabs sewn, you can take off your clips. And now we're going to fold it down like this, and we are going to add our rivets. Just center it best you can and make your hole. And there we go. Let's get our rivet, put it through, and then we'll set that as soon as we get the other one in place. And we'll set our rivets. Now that both of your rivets are set, we're going to take our gusset piece, which I have already snipped out the center mark. We need to take our main panels and we need to snip the center in the top and your bottom. I've already checked, it is centered right with where they meet up, the angles meet up. And that's on both. So center your main panels. And what we're going to do is you're going to take the main panel right side up and your gusset right side down, and you're going to match it up right here at the center point. Then you're going to take the top of it and you're going to match it up with the top edge. Same for this side. Then you're going to clip down the side on each side, and then you're going to clip most of the way on the bottom. So let's get it clipped. Leave your corners unclipped for now. Now we're going to do the bottom. I'm going to leave that unclipped for now. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to take some scissors and you're going to snip around this curve about a 1/4 inch deep. You don't want to go any deeper than a 1/4 inch because you may see your snips. So just a 1/4 inch. Okay, that should be enough for this side. And then it should just lay in there. Do you see that? It just lays in place. And they'll open up as they need to. Another thing that you can do, and I like doing this more, is you can take, I like to clip it first, get it where I want it, on both sides first. So before I do this, I'm going to get it clipped all where I want it first. But after that, I like to take a stapler, this smaller stapler, the 1/4 inch size, and just staple around the curve. And then you will remove the staples, but it holds it there so much better because you do have to remove your clips while you're sewing. So the stapler really helps. I'm actually one of those people that avoid sewing gussets like this because I don't like curves. But the stapler, it really helps, and cutting these little slits into it, they're a must. And since I know it fits, I'm going to go ahead and instead of clipping here, I'm going to do my first staple. Just stay within the seam allowance, and you don't have any problems with those staples. Right. Now we can take this to the machine. We're going to start sewing 1 inch down. You can mark it if you want. You're going to start sewing about 1 inch down, and you're going to sew with the seam allowance in the pattern around the entire thing, stopping 1 inch from the top. Let's take it to the machine. Go slow. If you need to crank around the corners with your hands, that's fine too. Just go slow. Now we're going to start all the way back at the top edge of this with just a slightly bigger seam allowance. Check your pattern tutorial for the exact. Sewing 2 rows actually helps you get a much neater curve on your gusset bottom. All right, now we have 2 rows sewn that are holding your gusset in. We're going to be just cutting these out. You don't even have to remove them on this one. And if you look, you can kind of see in here how nice that curve turned out. So let's go ahead. We're going to trim it down, but you want to leave about 1 inch at the top. So let's come down here, angle it in, and trim really close to our first stitch line. All right, now we're going to do the same exact thing for the other side. You're going to find your center and your center, line it up and clip it in place. Now again, we snip our sides, our corners. All right, and since we know now that it fits, it's clipped all the way around, we're going to go ahead and staple. You don't really want to staple till you know for sure. Okay. We're going to follow the same process as last time. Start about an inch down, sew your first, and then we're going to start at the top and sew your second. Let's take it to the machine. Now all we have to do is trim this side. Remember to leave an inch at the top and then just trim right next to your first stitch line. Okay, I got really close with this staple, so I need to take that one out real quick. Okay. Now we're all done with our main exterior. So we're going to put this aside and we're going to grab our zipper tape. Be sure that you have the right length for whichever one you're doing, whether you're doing the crossbody or the handbag. And we're going to take a ruler and measure from the end. Then we're going to make a mark within the seam allowance. Going to open up the zipper, fold it on that mark, lay your fold against the zipper teeth, and that will create a 90-degree angle. Pin it into place. Repeat for the opposite side. And then take it to your machine and baste it right here within the seam allowance, and that will hold your 90-degree angle. I'm going to take it to the machine and I'll be right back. All right, now that we have basted these into the 90-degree folds, we want to trim the excess. And then we should get our lighter and singe the edges. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab all 4 of your zipper panels, the 2 exterior and the 2 interior. Then you will take and turn them all wrong side up. You will get your ruler and we're going to measure from each edge. And we're going to draw a line. Now we will take some double-sided tape and put it along each short edge. Then you'll fold each edge to meet the line you drew. If you want to reinforce your tape, you can always put a clip just to make sure. For your lining fabric, or even your exterior, if it's one that you can iron, it is recommended to iron it to get the best crease to your fold. But of course you cannot iron vinyl, so. All right, you're going to take one of your exterior pieces. You're going to lay it right side up, and on the left upper side, you're going to measure and you're going to mark. Make sure it's within the seam allowance. I'm also using a silver marking pen so that you can wipe it off. Then you're going to take your zipper tape and you're going to lay it right sides together and line it up with that mark. And then clip it into place. And I like to clip over here too, so that whenever you do take this last clip off while you're sewing, it doesn't shift on you. You're more than welcome to clip on this side too, although this is not necessarily attached, holding it anywhere. Okay, now you're going to take this to the machine and you're going to baste this in place. Let's take it to the machine. With that now basted into place, you're going to take one of your lining pieces, line it up with the edge there, right side down to the wrong side of the zipper tape. And then we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew it on. Let's take that to the machine. All right, we have our panel, both the exterior and the lining, and we're going to turn it to where it's now wrong sides together, right at the seam. Clip it. All right, now we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to baste all the way around. Right here is actually a top stitch, so make sure it's your top stitch length, but we're going to baste all the way around. If you have a domestic machine, It's sometimes helpful if you reduce the bulk right here at your corners. So I take and snip this piece just to reduce the bulk of this corner, and it helps me to baste it a lot better. So wanted to show you that little trick. And we're going to start sewing right on this corner here. Make sure it's your top stitch length. All right, one side is done. Now we have to do the other one. We repeat everything we did for the opposite side. And because this won't exactly go the same, we're going to do it on the bottom corner. Now we'll take it to the machine and we'll baste it in place. Now, I don't know that I said it before, but I want to make sure that you understand that when you baste this zipper in place, you start at this zipper beginning and you end right here. You do not go past this point, because if you do, you will see it because the rest of this is exposed. So let's take it to the machine and baste it in place. Okay, I'm going to take the lining now, right side down, line it up, even with the edge here. And we're going to go sew this on. All right, and then you're going to flip it back. And if you can see, that's quite a bit of bulk there. This is why I reduce the bulk on my domestic. You just take and you kind of wedge your scissors in between and snip. That just takes out the big bulk. And now it's a lot easier to sew that area. And then just take it to the machine and top stitch around. now we've basted all the way around both sides, so we can set this piece aside for now. We're going to grab our slip pockets. So you'll take your slip pockets and you will put them right sides together. And then you're going to clip them along the long straight edge. Now we're going to take it to the machine and we're going to sew right across this long straight edge. Pay close attention in the pattern tutorial for your seam allowance. Now that we've sewn across the top edge, we're going to flip it open right at the seam. I like to press it like this and then flip it over this way, press it like this, and then clip it right here at the seam. We're going to go ahead and continue clipping all the way around the outside. We're going to take it to the machine. We're going to do a top stitch along this top edge and then continue on around the perimeter to baste the sides closed. Let's take it to the machine. All right, now you're going to find your center and the top and bottom, and you're going to use a temporary marking tool to draw a line from the top to the bottom. I like to use rivets on my slip pockets to reinforce them. So I'm going to make a little triangle up here. What I do is I measure about a ½ inch down from the top. Make a little dot. From my center point, about a ½ inch over, make a dot. Another ½ inch over this way, make a dot. And then connect it. Now what I'm going to do is get out one of the main lining pieces. Line this up along the bottom. Clip it in place. And then we're going to take it to the machine and we're going to baste around from here over to this line. We're going to come up, follow it around the triangle, come back down, and baste back around. Now because this line is visible, it's going to need to be your top stitch length for this basting step. So let's take it to the machine and get this basted. All right, we've basted all the way around, up with our little triangle, and back all the way around. So what we have to do now is insert our rivet. This is not in the pattern. This is something that I like to do just to secure the pocket. The sides will be secured in the seam allowance, but right here is just a little bit extra. The reason that we did the little triangle was actually so you don't cut a hole through your stitching whenever you're making this rivet. Because whenever you're putting this rivet in, if you cut a hole through your stitching, then your stitching is not secure. All right, now that we've gotten the rivet installed, we're going to set this aside. Now we're going to work on our zipper pocket for the other side in the interior. You need one of your zipper pocket lining pieces, and you're going to turn it wrong side up. You're going to get a ruler and center it, a longer one. And you're going to measure down and draw a line all the way across, leaving space on each side. Your pattern tutorial tells you how much. Then you're going to measure down and draw another. Then you're going to connect those two together. You're going to measure in. I like to find the center point of that. And do the same thing on the other side. And then we're going to connect a triangle in here to that center point. And now we will draw a line straight across, connecting your two center points here. And that is going to be our zipper cutout. So now what you'll do is you'll grab your remaining lining piece, and you want this lining piece to be right side up. Then you're going to measure down, and you're going to center this. I'm going to make a center mark on this. I've already made it on my main lining piece. And then you're going to, I like to use masking tape to hold this in place because your clips aren't normally long enough. And then you will take this to the machine and you will sew around this box. Let's take it to the machine. All right, now the pattern does not tell you to do this, but I like to stitch around twice. I'm going to go ahead and sew around one more time. Now that we've sewn around the box, we're going to cut right on the line, the center line that we drew. And I'm going to use my rotary cutter. Then I'm going to take my scissors, and from the point, I'm going to go into the corners as close as I can without cutting into the stitching. And repeat for the opposite side. Let's go very slow because you can't put it back if you accidentally snip through the stitching. All right, now you're going to take the bottom here and put it through to the back and follow the front around under into the back too. And just finger press it. You'll see it leaves a very nice clean zipper opening. I also like to take my little pressing tool here, make an even better press. If you can use an iron, feel free. Okay, now we're going to take our zipper tape. Be sure that you have the correct length zipper tape. And we're going to put the pull on. The easiest way to put a pull on is to look at your teeth here. On this one, the teeth have the right one on the top. So when this pull gets on, you want that right tooth on the top. I've tried different little zipper jigs to put it on, and I just find using my fingers to feel it and put it on is the very best for me. Now, if you notice, I have the left one on the top, and then you see there's actually a little bit of a gap like this, so we need to fix that. And there we go. Our zipper pull is now on straight. Put it about halfway, and then I like to use double-sided tape. You do not have to use double-sided tape. It just helps keep it where you want it. Now you want your pull to be closing to the left, and you want to lay it in here and just kind of see if you have it centered here on the sides. And don't stick it down until you get it where you want it. It's pretty close. What I like to do is look really close, and there's lines on the zipper tape. And I like to line up each long edge along one of the lines on the zipper tape, and that helps me to keep the zipper centered inside the opening. Okay. And now we're going to just take this to the machine and we're going to sew with a top stitch around the zipper opening. And this will put our zipper into place. Okay. Now when we sewed that, we actually left our threads long so that we can pull them to the back and tie them off. So let's pull them to the back. Then I like to take a needle, thread it through this hole in between the two layers here. One second while I thread the needle. All right, now the needle's threaded, and then I just pull it through and have all of these threads in between the layers. You don't have to cut them or anything. They'll just be right here snug between the layers, and you will never even see that knot. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take our other pocket piece, and you want to put it down right side together with this one. You're going to clip it into place. They'll line up exactly evenly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line here along the bottom. Flip it over and do the same thing on this side, on the wrong side of each of your pocket pieces. Then I'm going to use double-sided tape again. And I'm going to tape along this bottom right here. You don't have to use double-sided tape. You could just clip it. And I'm going to fold it up to that line. Do the same thing with this one. And then fold it up to that line. You want to make sure that they actually match here at the bottom, because you want as little play as possible whenever you stitch them together in the end. And now we're going to continue clipping all the way around. Now you're going to take this to the machine and you're going to sew around the sides and the top, leaving the bottom open. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to start over here and make a little angle like this, because it actually gives you a stronger turning hole and less of a point and less of bulk in the corners. So to sew it, I'm actually going to turn it this way and go over it just like this. When I get to my zipper tape, I'm actually going to go over the zipper tape a few times just to make sure that it's closed off, and we won't have any problems there either. So let's take it to the machine and sew the side, the top, and the other side, making sure to keep the top main lining out of your stitching. Start with the seam allowance that you want. Angle it back. Again, go back and forth over the zipper tape. Okay, we have totally enclosed the sides and top of our zipper pocket, and we left the bottom open. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our zipper panel and we're going to find our center point. Let's go ahead and find the center point on the other side too. And if you haven't found your center points for your main lining panels, you need to go ahead and do that too, on the top and the bottom. Now you're going to take your zipper panel that you just found the center point for, and you're going to lay it right side up. And then you need to clip it in place. Then we're going to take this to the machine and we are going to baste it into place. Now that this is basted into place, you're going to take off the other side panel. You're going to push this aside for a moment. Then you're going to take your other lining panel. Then you will also line this one up with the center mark and clip it in place. Notice that for the zipper panel side, it's closing this way, and this will be closing this way. Now for the slip pocket side, you have the slip pocket and it's going this direction, and that is because when they are together, they will now both be the same way. So get this clipped into place, and then we'll go baste this one. All right, let's go baste this one. Now we want to take and clip the zipper tape in so that it doesn't get caught in the next few steps for both of these panels. And we're going to repeat the process with our gussets. So let's get it all clipped into place. First, we have to find the center point. Make sure you put it right side together at your center point. And I want to add my tag right here, right beside this pocket coming out of the lining seam. So I'm going to grab my little tag here, and you could have basted it into place when you did this slip pocket, but it's totally your decision where you want it. So I'm going to clip this for 1 second, and then we'll clip the lining to it. Now we're going to get our scissors and we're going to clip or snip, I should say, into all these little Now that I know the curves fit perfectly, I'm going to go ahead and use my little stapler. Now we're going to take it back to the machine and we are going to sew from this point all the way around back to this point. And then we're going to ease the corner a little more and sew about an 1/8 inch in just around the corners. Then we will start at the top with our regular seam allowance, come down to about 1 inch down, and then we will ease it out to a bigger seam allowance. Pay attention in your tutorial to make this fit inside of your main exterior a lot better. So we're easing the corner out and then we sew from the top, angle out, come down around, then we're going to angle it back in for the regular seam allowance so that it fits perfectly inside of your exterior. And we're just going to start at the corners, about an 1/8 inch over. Remember, go about 1 inch down and then angle it out or in, depending on how you want to word it, to make a deeper seam allowance. Remember to angle it back towards the side. You can now inspect and see how you like your corners. And if you don't like them, you can always go back and redo them. These turned out real nice. You can now trim the side. Remember to leave the top. And you want to trim it to about this first stitch line here. Now we're going to repeat for the opposite side. And now to snip. All right, now we're going to take it back to the machine and do the exact same thing. Start here, go around, end there, do just the corners again, a little more, and then we're going to start at the top, angle out, come down and around, come back, angle back in, and come up. Okay, now let's trim this other side. Remember to leave the top 1 inch not trimmed. Okay, and now we're going to set this aside. We're going to take out our 2 lining tops. These are made out of our exterior fabric. If you notice, they have a slight angle to them, and you need to make sure that you keep them with the angle angling out towards the bottom. You're going to clip them together. All right, and then you're going to take them to the machine. You're going to sew both sides, and then we're going to open it up. We're going to open up and butterfly the seams, and we're going to do a 1/8 inch top stitch on each side. So let's take these to the machine. First sew each side, then open it up and top stitch the seam allowances butterflied open on each side. And now you're going to open it up, butterfly the seam open, just kind of maneuver it to however you need to. And top stitch. So make sure you change your stitch length to the top stitch. All right, while you have these still together before you cut them apart, it's easier to center them. You just find your little center mark right there, and you need to mark your centers on the piece, both on the top and on the bottom. If you haven't already, make sure you mark your centers on your lining piece. Make sure you open your zipper here. You're going to need it open later. And now we're going to turn this right side out. Okay. Then you will take your lining top and you'll have it wrong side out. And you're going to match up, slip it on over. You're going to match up your center points that you just made and that you have on your main lining. Right there. And clip them together. Whenever you get to these junctions on the inside, make sure you butterfly these seams also. It helps to reduce your bulk. Okay, now we will take this to the machine and we will sew around the top. Pay close attention to the seam allowance that's written in the tutorial. Now we're going to flip the lining top up and the zipper panel. You want the seam allowance from the zipper panel and everything else down towards the main lining. And then you're going to take it to the machine and you're going to sew on the main lining with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. It's going to be a top stitch length, so make sure you have it to your top stitch length and right here, and everything is underneath the main lining. I always like to start at a seam. It makes it a lot cleaner. You should have a lining that looks like this. Again, be sure your zipper is opened for your zipper pocket because that is how you're going to turn it out. And be sure that these are clipped. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your main exterior and your lining. Your main exterior should still be wrong side out. If you did the handbag version, you need to make sure that you tuck your handles inside the bag. If you did the crossbody version, you need to make sure that your D-rings are down. Okay. Then you're going to place your lining inside of the main exterior, and you want them to be right sides together. Now, if you put a bag tag or designated one of your sides to be the front, then you need to pay careful attention to that so that you can see where to put your zipper, which way you want it facing. I did not, so I don't have to worry about it. Now we do need to tuck these zippers down. You do not want to catch them in this seam. So tuck that zipper down and then turn it around and tuck the other one down. All you want up in this part from the lining portion is the top lining. Now you're going to match up the center points. and clip them together. Just like you did with the other seams, you're going to butterfly this one and clip it open. All right, because this gets a little bit bulky, I actually do like to staple my seams open, especially for this top part. So let me open this up, and I'm going to staple within the seam allowance my seams open. But you don't want to just go around stapling it all up. You want to make sure that you have it all lined up before you get to this, before you use the stapler. You're already going to be moving this around and maneuvering it. So it's always easier if you're on these angles here, on the corners here, the smaller curves, if you have these staples in place. So let's take this to the machine and let's sew around the top perimeter. Don't be afraid to move it around. Okay, now you have to trim down the top just a little. You don't want to trim it too much. I'm going to remove my staples here, so I'll be right back. Some of them aren't too low. Some of them can just cut right out. Now we're going to reach in and through the zipper opening, through this zipper pocket, we're going to pull the whole bag right side out. It's easier if you just poke the corners in, grab it from the inside and pull it out that way. But you do need to go kind of slow and steady. Go into this other corner. This is going to push all the way down to where the top lining is actually inside. That's why it's called the lining, because it's actually inside. See, this is up and out. It needs to go all the way in behind. Now we're going to pull this zipper pocket out, and before we do any more, we're going to trim this down in here. You don't want to catch the stitching, but you do need to trim this so that you'll have a cleaner, less bulk in the end. So we do that side, and we need to do this side. And now remember those little angled bottoms? Make sure it's still a little angle here. Match up your seam at the very edge, match up your folds here, and clip it. Do the same on the other side. Make sure it's still an angle. Seam on the side, match up your folds, and clip it. Clip along the bottom, making sure they're even. You want to make sure that you line up these folds evenly, because you want to top stitch between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch from the edge, but you definitely want to catch both sides. So, okay, now we're going to take this to the machine, and we're going to sew right along this fold. All right, we've closed up our zipper pocket. Now we're going to put it back down inside into place. And then the next step is to top stitch around the top of the bag. Inside it looks real nice and clean. Fits perfectly in there. So now we're going to, right here where this seam is, pinch it and put clips. I'm folding this down. You want to keep that out of the way when you're sewing, and we're going to top stitch around the entire perimeter. Remember, it's a top stitch length. right, now we've top stitched along the entire top. I left my tails long so that I could pull them all to the inside, tie them off, and then run them to the inside of the bag. So let me pull them all through and I'll be back. We're down to our final finishing touches. Okay, now we have to unclip our zipper tape and we need to add our zipper pull. If it lines up good for you, you're done with that part. Now you can either add one of your zipper tabs like she has, or you can add one of these zipper ends. I always fold mine over like this and then fold it again like that. Just like that. Slide the zipper end on as far as it will go. Make sure the back looks good to you. If it doesn't, just do it again. It's easy enough. I'm also gonna singe the end of my zipper tape here. It's a good idea to use Loctite to keep your screw in. And attach our strap. And there we go. What an adorable bag. This is the Diamond Crossbody from Sewflo Sewing Patterns. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as we enjoyed sharing it with you. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to like and share. And while you're at it, check out some of our other tutorials. We love to see your creations, so please share and tag Cherishing Today when you do. And don't forget to join our Facebook group, Cherishing Today Designs, for more inspiration.